1 0. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1 0.
What's up, Fight fans? Welcome to another edition of Warriors Edge Boxing, Wet Boxing 101. I'm your host, Luis Trevino, like always, coming to you by way of Warriors Edge Boxing Installations and Promotions on this beautiful Thursday, June the 20th, 2019. And like always, like I've always said, folks, we are coming live from Warriors Edge Boxing Gym. I hope everybody's having a good evening. And Fight fans, thank you for joining us like always. It's like I've always said, it's a podcast first of its kind, and it's as raw as it gets because we're coming to you live. That's right. And today on the show is boxing trainer Mr. Roger Avalos. And those of you local people here, and I'm assuming not even just local, in the great state of Texas and the southern border of Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, Mexico, has heard of Roger Avalos. Well, he's on our show today. He's been a pro trainer, amateur trainer, coach for USA Boxing a couple of years. He's just been in the boxing scene for a long time. So, folks, we have him on our show tonight. Roger, so glad you could be with us. Good evening, sir.
Thank you for having me. I'm really honored, and it's a pleasure to see you, Tree. It's been a while since I've seen you, my brother.
Yeah, good. All right, Rog. Thanks for being on the show today, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming out here for Warriors Edge, man. Folks, don't forget to please comment on live chat. I know Roger was going to have Angel Manfredi. That's right, Angel Manfredi on the show just to say a couple of words for us. Hopefully we'll get that guy in the future, right? That'll be cool. But, guys, if you want to establish dialogue, go to YouTube. And on the search box, go Web Boxing 101 and subscribe. And then you can go live from there and live chat as well. We got a big show for you guys today. And our question for you guys is, what do you guys think of what Dana White said about boxing? He said break and rebuild boxing. I got a little article on him a little bit later, and that's what he said, folks. Break or rebuild boxing. I guess Dana White wants to come back and come back to boxing, and he thinks that boxing needs fixing. Did you hear something about that, Roger?
I haven't been able to keep up with the news lately as far as with boxing. Okay, so
we'll refresh your memory.
Yes.
Dana White said that. So that's the question, guys. What do you guys think of what Dana White said as far as the boxing? Boxing is broken. Well, I mean, we've in our Pat podcast we've had that discussion before that boxing is broken. But we'll see, man, if that's the case. But first, what's making headlines for you guys on this Thursday and what's coming up on this fight weekend, especially tomorrow, Friday night fights. Cancio is poised to beat Machado again. They're going to have a big fight tomorrow. The WBA super featherweight world champion Andrew El Chango Cancio, he's 20-4, is confident he'll defeat Albert Machado, also known as Explosivo. He's 21-1. Again, that's going to be in Friday's rematch at the Fantasy Springs Resort Casino, and you can live stream it, folks, on DAZN. DAZN is awesome, man. It's a live stream channel. You can cast away in your TV, smart TV. Everything's smart now, right, Raj?
Oh, yeah.
And you can do that and watch these big fights on DAZN. DAZN's awesome, man. But I miss the announcers. I miss like Jim Lampley, Harold Letterman, all those guys.
Yes,
I mean, it's
old school.
I guess, Roger, I guess nothing lasts forever, huh?
No, nothing does last forever.
Yeah,
but it's always good to revisit those old school
Memories, huh?
Memories,
Like
sir.
those
Yes,
big
sir.
fights, man.
Yes,
and
sir.
I want to pick your brain about old school fights as well. So it's going to be on the zone, folks. A big fight. Andrew Cancio still juggling two worlds. As you know, Andrew Cancio, the world champ, and guess what? He's a full-time construction technician. A construction technician for the gas company up there somewhere in Southern California. What do you think of a boxer of that caliber having? I mean, boxing is not his boxing is his hobby. The girl that fought the last time the one of the women's champion last time. She's a full-time police officer, and she fought Katie Taylor on the undercard of the Reese Joshua fight. And she said, "Look, man, boxing is just a hobby." For Cancio, it's the same thing. Roger, do you think that's hard on a fighter when boxing is not his full-time job because of economic reasons, and he still has to fight, and he still goes to work, and he still finds time to train? This is not amateur no more. This is pro fight. So what do you think about that, Raj?
So the only way that I can answer that question would be to ask Marvin Hagler,
Why do you say that?
because he used to work and still train.
Is that so? I didn't know that.
He was a construction worker. Yes, sir.
Marvin Hagler.
Yes, sir.
Wow, I learn something every day about boxing, man.
Yes, sir. He had to go to work, 9 to 5 job, put in a lot of overtime. As a matter of fact, he tributed his hands being hard as stone because of the work that he used to do.
What work was that, Roger?
Construction.
Wow.
Cement work, construction work.
Wow, I didn't know
And
that.
You know, those guys they're out there in the heat. They're doing their thing, and you can't help but to get tough. You know, you got to get tough in those type of works. Not everybody can do it.
So do you think it's a little bit harder for a fighter to do that, Raj? Hey, can I call you Raj?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely,
Yes, sir.
brother.
Sorry about
you
that.
can call
All
me
right.
whatever you want to call me, man.
All right, Raj. So do you think that's harder for a fighter, man?
You know what? Most trainers, I'm particularly one of them, frown at trying to get a fighter. Well, I frown at the fact that I can't get a fighter full time to dedicate his time strictly for boxing.
It's hard enough as it is, right?
As it is, that's right. And not saying it's impossible, but most trainers will tell you that if you're gonna get into boxing, stick to just boxing. You know, don't be juggling with going and trying to do football, martial arts, or other things. In this case, it's a little bit different because it's an income source. As you know, climbing up the ladder, it's very difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult. And you know what? Going back to Cancio, he hasn't won a fight that will economically set him for life.
Yeah.
And so he's looking for that. So I think I admire a guy like that, Raj. Like you're saying, it's hard. And I know you as a coach do not recommend that. But when a fighter, that's all he has to eat, he has to work, but he still loves the boxing and he has a passion for the boxing. He still has to juggle two worlds. And it is two worlds because boxing is hard enough already.
Exactly. Trainers go through the same thing, believe it or not. Trainers, I did it. I'm still doing it up to this day. I live a normal life. I have a family that I gotta support. It's a strain on everybody. You yourself, Tree, you have a regular job, and then you still have to come and make time to come and run a gym.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing for a fighter. A fighter has to be able to sustain himself, feed himself, work, and then still put in what he wants to do as far as passion goes. You
Wow.
know,
Yeah, and you know what, folks? In case you didn't know, Roger Avalos was a pro trainer, and he had trained for the likes of Hector Macho Camacho Jr., and we'll talk about that in a little while. For every Canelo Alvarez, Tyson Fury, and Deontay Wilder, who each make 8 figures per fight, folks, there are boxers such as, again, Andrew Cancio, who still work 9 to 5 on a job, and have never come close to seeing even 200 grand for a fight. How's that? So, I mean, that makes it even more compelling to watch the fight tomorrow, folks. Cancio is in the field daily, jackhammer in hand, working in the gas lines. That's pretty hard work. in the outdoors, that heat. And that's partly responsible for keeping Cancio in good shape, because he actually works hard out in the streets. And you know how construction work, it's very hard. In fact, when he spoke to reporters on a recent afternoon, Cancio did so while at his job. Can you believe that? He was getting interviewed while on the job. Cancio, he goes, I'm actually talking in my lunch. He took a lunch break. He talked to them, and of course, he actually said, well, let's fight again. Hold on, let me take a break on my lunch break, and we'll talk about the second fight. Of course, Cancio can repeat his upset on Alberto Machado in the rematch. His financial outlook will be much rosier, and perhaps if he wins this fight, will allow him to focus full time on boxing. And guys, if you've never seen Cancio, he's an excellent fighter, man. He's going to be out there. He's expected to make in low six figures tomorrow night on the rematch. If you missed the rematch, if you missed the first fight, it was an awesome fight. It was almost candidate for fight of the year. On February 9th, Machado was making the third defense. It was Machado making his third defense of the 130-pound world title, and a huge favorite to defeat Cancio. And Cancio was the underdog. Cancio survived a first-round knockdown, brutal knockdown in the fourth round. He dropped Machado 3 times, all with body punches, to get the knockout victory and win the belt for the WBA Super Featherweight Champion of the World. So, folks, catch it tomorrow. It's going to be at the Fantasy Springs Resort Casino, streamed live on DAZN. And, man, it just makes it more special because Cancio is like us. We're that worker, man, that hard worker that goes out there every day, has a real job, and puts boxing as a passion in the heart. Nothing against Machado, but, hey, man, I'm rooting for Cancio. Just for the fact, they're both good fighters, but just for the fact that, you know what, this guy's working a 9-to-5 job. It's actually hard to work like that in the sun in Southern California, and he's coming out in a big fight. So, folks, catch it tomorrow on DAZN. Anything you want to add for that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that's normal, though. You gotta know that's normal. The reality is, most of these fighters don't have the luxury of just having those 6 figures to be able to just concentrate, to go, and that's their job, to go to boxing and train and go home and relax and then go back to work to boxing. Most fighters, I mean, there's lots of stories of journeymen that started off as journeymen, and then they ended up becoming 6-figure fighters to where they could retire and stick only just to boxing, you know what I mean? But that's the reality of what boxing is about. But
it makes it harder, right?
It makes it very, very hard, because you got to be able to juggle. And if they have a family, that's another aspect of it. They got to make time for the family.
Exactly.
I myself personally, I'm on my second marriage. My second marriage was almost being torn apart because of all the time that a lot of people don't see that part of the life of a boxer, the life of a trainer, the strain that it puts into the family of dedicating all these hours and time to train kids, to train pro fighters, all the hours that it takes to travel with these kids, to travel with these fighters. It takes a strain on the family. You have to be I thank God that I'm still 19 years. We just had our anniversary, me and my wife.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was on Father's Day. I married my wife on Father's Day specifically because I have a bad memory, and I knew that I had to do it for Father's Day to make sure that I never forgot my anniversary.
Wow.
And so,
well, like you say, Raj, you know what? A coach, a trainer is a true leader, and a true leader, most important of all, is to be successful in life demands that a man makes a personal commitment to excellence and to victory. Even though the ultimate victory can never be completely won, yet the victory might be pursued and wooed with every fiber of our body, with every bit of our might, and all of our effort. And each week there's a new encounter, each day, and there's a new challenge. And this was quoted by the great Vince Lombardi, what it takes to be number one. And a true leader is all these coaches like you, right? So, folks, catch that fight. And then also we're also checking our live chat. I want to give a shout out to Jorge Peña. Saludos para Jorge Peña, my friend, my brother. Hope you're doing all right, and hope retirement life is treating you good. And also, we got a new podcast fan, Mr. Lugo. How you doing, sir? Awesome podcast. Checking it out for the first time. I hope you enjoy it, Lugo. And you know what? These shows are getting loaded every week. We got some great guest of honor. Our show keeps getting bigger. So for those of you live chatting, again, hello to all you guys. Continuing on the news of boxing. That heavyweight division is exciting for the first time in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
That heavyweight division, since the lights of Mike Tyson, it's getting good, huh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It is.
Did you see the Tyson Fury fight last week?
I didn't have an opportunity to do it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a trainer. I train fighters. I gotta do to keep up with the sports and everything, but I've kind of taken a step back a little bit away from watching fights. I'm a bad critic. I can't watch a fight without analyzing the fight. So it's been a while since I've actually sat down to enjoy a fight without sitting there and looking at all the mistakes and judging the fight.
Wow.
And so it's very difficult for me to enjoy a fight.
And folks, in case again you didn't know who Roger was a pro trainer. He's even had in the lights of Angel Manfredi. And also, we're going to talk about he had an instructional video for title boxing on the Master of Hand Wrap. So we'll talk about that. Let's go real quick to the live chat because it's for you. Borderland Brawler, Mr. Jerry Hernandez says, Hey, Luis, love this podcast. I will take a hard-working fighter over a half-hearted, talented fighter. And he also says, what's up, Roger? It's good to hear your voice, brother. You want to say a shout-out to Jerry?
You know what?
That's what he said. I mean, so
you know what, brother? I have a beautiful spot in my heart for Jerry. Jerry is a very special person to me. He's somebody that I definitely need to make time to get together with him. It's overdue.
all right, there you go, Jerry.
He knows what I'm talking about. But at the end, please forgive me, but at the end of all the struggles,
Yes.
we're family.
All right, man. So
We're family. It's a boxing community. We're always gonna be family.
yeah, and you know what, Roger? It's funny that you mentioned, but we are family. I mean, we are family in boxing, and now that I've got, of course, I'm not in the lights of you. I'm learning. Where at the end of the day, we're boxing. So, Jerry, a shout out to you, and he'd probably be
Yes,
chatting.
definitely, Jerry.
I did have Jerry on the show here.
Yeah, I know. I actually heard that podcast. I was following that podcast. I gotta say, I'm really very, very proud of what Jerry has accomplished. Jerry said it in his own words. He was, from somebody from coming from the streets, from coming from where he came from, struggling with the fact that he had trainers that he himself said that didn't teach him the correct techniques, and he had to jump back and forth from trainer to trainer for him to finally end up with me. When I don't know if you know Mr. Trevino, but me and Jerry were actually teammates. He was a coach of the Ironhearts.
Wow, I didn't know that.
As a matter of fact,
he's the original Ironhearts.
He's one of the original Ironhearts. Him and his son, his family, Linda. Shout outs to Linda. Her and my wife were very good friends. We broke bread together.
Wow, that's good.
We were family.
Well, it's time to get together again.
Yeah, we
Roger.
definitely do. It's overdue.
And this is what he said. Keep up the great work. God bless you, brother. And we're also on the live chat. We want to give a shout out to Nightmare Boxing. And just real quick before I forget, I was real proud of Ivy. She came out in the news, and guess what? She's going to the Nationals.
Is she really?
Hell yeah! So we want to give a shout out to her. She was on my podcast too. Great little girl. So I want to give a shout out to everybody out there in Nightmare Boxing. It was a great article. So going back to that, Jerry was on the show. Let's go back to the heavyweight, and we'll get you your turn to get all this out real quick. Tyson Fury, the larger than life, he's a lineal heavyweight world champion. Fancies himself as a showman. I really like showmen, Roger. And he came to the Las Vegas trip for the first time to put on a show last week, in case you missed it. He did that on Saturday night. Fury easily destroyed, and I'm going to say destroy without apologies, the unknown Tom Schwartz. It was like a tuna fight in the second round, and he retained the lineal title for the fourth time before the announced crowd of over 9,000 people at the MGM Grand Arena. In the main event of the heavily publicized ESPN card, Fury came to the ring dressed in red, white, and blue, exactly like Apollo Creed, and even the music was "Living in America" from Rocky. He dazzled. He did great. They call him the Gypsy King. He landed a left hand that clearly hurt Schwartz. And again, he put him down, landed a powerful left hand to the head, and he melted into the canvas on his knees. He beat the count, but the fight was basically over. The famous referee, Kenny Bayless, however, was facing the fighters and did not see the towel because the other corner threw the towel. He stepped in to stop the battering anyway, calling it halt to the action, 2 minutes 54 seconds, and sending the British crowd into a massive celebration of the next level. So what's in store for the heavyweight championship, folks? I'm really excited. What's the next for the heavyweights? I'm very excited at this time. Let me just go over real quick. Deontay Wilder will face Luis Ortiz September 2019. You want to see that rematch, Raj?
Yeah, I do.
That was a good fight.
It was a very good fight.
And Luis Ortiz had him in the early rounds.
Oh, yeah.
He rocked him. I'm sorry, Raj, and I think what happened with Luis Ortiz is that I think Luis Ortiz has more technicalities on him. And Deontay Wilder's more wild. What do you think?
Yes, you're saying that you're key on that. Deontay Wild he's wild, like you just said.
Exactly.
But he's a force to be reckoned with. He is. He overwhelms you. He just comes forward. It's a good fight. It's a good fight to see. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people criticize Deontay Wilder because they wanted to see him fight another person. We don't want to see Luis Ortiz. You already fought him, but I think it's going to be good. I mean, I think Wilder will beat him this time easier. Also, Fury after this win will fight in September or October of this year. But I think the most anticipated fight that we want to see, the other heavyweight, is Anthony Joshua versus Anthony Reese, and that's going to take place November 2019, this year in November. What did you think of the first fight?
Honestly, I think a lot of people were not expecting the outcome. Some people did call it right, as far as people that have followed Mr. Reese. They knew that he was going to bring it because Mr. Reese has done his share of he's been around, and so for us trainers that follow boxing, that we see these fighters and we follow them, we knew that it wasn't going to be something simple for Joshua to just come in and do what he just walk over him. But one of the biggest things that I do gotta say is this: the thing that kind of bothered me a little bit about the whole thing was after the fight.
What about what happened after the fight?
Well, all the postings, the jokes that were being done on Facebook, the jokes that were being done on Facebook, as far as tortillas, hey, he won this fight with nothing but tortillas and things like that. That all of those little things really bothered me. I think Mr. Reese deserved a little bit more of respect, because the man just won
3 belts,
and he marked the world of boxing, first Mexican ever to win a heavyweight
of Mexican descent.
Exactly, and
they questioned his nationality, if he was actually from Mexico. They questioned his nationality. But his parents were born in Mexico, and he was born here.
Irregardless, I think they shouldn't have never brought it up the way they making a mockery of his win.
Yeah, you're right.
It's bothered me. It's bothered me because no matter what, he deserves what he got because he was in there. He was in there. He was in the fight. He took the blows. He bled, and he sweated. And whether he was in shape, he didn't have that statue body, like that bronze body, like like Joshua. But nonetheless, he sure brought it. He brought it, and he deserves every credit to the win. He deserves every credit to the win, and I personally didn't like the way
he was portrayed.
Exactly.
Wow.
I think he deserved more
because he just won 3 belts.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you know what? Everybody had and I did see that. That social media can be a killer, huh?
Oh yeah. You know what?
People are brutal.
I'm one to talk about that. I lived in that type of atmosphere where people will always criticize what you're doing. People will always question, well, how is it that he's doing all these things? Who is he? What has he done? But yet, they're standing on the other side while the other person is doing what he's doing. You know what I mean? They could have questioned, well, why is Reese fighting this fight? Who has he fought?
Exactly. He was a shoo-in. I mean, not a shoo-in. I'm sorry. He was a filler.
Exactly.
Because Baby Miller.
That was his time to be in the ring.
He got an opportunity, man.
He had an opportunity, and he took advantage of the opportunity. And
I think, Raj, the true the mediocre boxing fans that really they think they're boxing fans, they didn't know who Reese was. At the end of the day, if you're a real big boxing fan, you saw him fight already before, and he had a vicious left, and he's just a good boxer.
Me personally, brother, just because he had I understand what you're saying. He had a vicious left, but in order for you to land that vicious left, you have to have some sort of skill. You can't just throw a vicious left and assume you're gonna land it. You have to have some sort of, timing, some sort of skill to be able to land those shots. And so that portrayed Reese setting up the shot. He landed it, and the rest is history.
Yeah, man, he landed it, and yeah, you're right. There's got to be skill involved,
a discipline, and skill. Somebody had to take the time to, whether it was experience in the ring, or somebody had to take the time to actually teach him that skill, that timing, for him to have done what he did, and he did it. He pulled it off, and I think he deserves all the credit for it. No matter how long he holds on to the belt. I personally would like for him to hold on to the belts for a while. I personally would have loved to have seen him fight other fights before he went into this other fight with Mr. Joshua. But just the fact that Joshua is the name brand that everybody wants to see, the person that deserves to, that they feel that he deserves to carry this belt, they're right away bringing him back into that ring. But ask me if they would do the same for him. Like, let's say that he does win the fight again. Ask me if they'll give him that rematch flaw for him. Would they do that for him, for Mr. Reese?
If he would have lost?
If he would have lost?
No, they wouldn't
exactly.
have. Exactly. Of course not. They wouldn't have.
See?
Of course not. That Reese was scheduled. Reese was supposed to lose. Period. And let's be honest, Raj, and let's be honest. When the first time he got knocked down, I thought it was over. Everybody thought. Did. No, I mean, I think 90% of the people that I know or more thought it's over. And that was an early fight. We knew it. All right, let's get Joshua Wilder now in the board. No, he knocked out. Even his face looked like he got beat. Man, but that kid came back. So yeah, I even said in my last podcast, I thought he was beat, but he did good. And you know what? I think Reese, and he must develop a thick skin to criticism and let the caustic comments he receives from some quarters pass over his head. It is sometimes a hard thing to do, by the way, to go out and even laugh at things that offend sensibilities or offend families. Again, kudos goes to Reese.
Definitely.
So, I mean, we're getting ready for November, and let me tell you one thing. I think you'll beat him.
I believe he's worked hard enough to be where he's at. He deserves it.
He deserves it.
Anybody that steps into that ring, my great friend Jerry said it himself. Anybody that steps into that ring, whether they have 60 losses and 2 wins, No matter who it is, they deserve to get credits because I don't see that person. The people criticizing boxers are not the ones that are in the ring doing doing that sport. You know, there's thousands of sports out there, right? But there's nothing like our beloved boxing. It's an individual sport. It's just you and the other person, mano a mano. And it's an unpredictable sport. That's
Yep.
what makes the sport of boxing so beautiful because it's very unpredictable. You just don't know what you're gonna get, man.
Yeah, I mean, it is unpredictable. So that's the big heavyweights. We're excited to have that coming up. That's going to be good. So the last thing that I wanted to cover here also, not the last thing, but I wanted to cover also what Dana White said. He had a comment, and it's been on numerous social media outlets, sports media stuff out there. Folks, what do you guys think? Dana White planning to break and rebuild boxing using UFC business model. UFC's been very successful. It's been tried. I mean, it's been a couple of it's been years already for it. But boxing is the oldest sport. I don't think it's broken. But this is what he said. Dana White has grand plans for the sport of boxing. He's going to use the same strategy that he uses in UFC. Dana White has been outspoken about his intended boxing venture. The UFC president already met with promoter Eddie Hearn in April, in line with getting these plans off the ground after this summer. During the unveiling of the UFC Apex facility on Tuesday, White once again talked about these said plans more elaborately. He said ultimately he believes that there is much more that can be done to boost up the sport back to the glory years and decades ago. We talked about the old school, but you know what? I think it's just the generationals, man. Generational gaps. It's the new generations, man, and you see it everywhere. In the walks of law enforcement, like I'm in, you see the new generation, man. It's not the same, man. The new upbringings, the new things, and it affects sports, business, corporations, the way we watch TV. I mean, hell, haven't you noticed, man? Everybody is zombied out to their cell phones. I mean, everywhere you go, it's. I think it's just a generational gap. He says that Dana White also said if you looked at the way it was in the 80s, 90s, even in the early 2000s, he said you had a few guys that were making money. White said you had Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Oscar De La Hoya, maybe a couple of other guys. But boxing as a whole, you're talking about tons of fighters that weren't making big money and weren't in big fights. I think that the sport could be much more. White intends to use the same strategy when he took over the Fertitta brothers, and he saved UFC from demise in the early 2000s. If you look at what the UFC has built over the last 20 years and our events, he said, and how many events we're doing like 42 events a year. He said every time you go to one of our events, they're either sold out or they break the record for ticket sales. This year we're going to break the record for ticket sales, and it's going to break history of the UFC. There are more tickets being sold this year than ever before in the history of the company, and we continue to put these fights. People come and see them. They're on TV, free. They're on ESPN, which everybody has, he says. And we're still doing $1 million gates on these things without the Mayweathers and those types of fights. You could build a business with boxing, but build a real business, he added. You just got to break it and rebuild it. So he thinks that he's got to break and rebuild it. White initially intended to have SUFA Boxing be its own entity, free from any ties from sanctioning bodies such as the WBO, IBF, WBC. Although when asked about how he's going to handle it, he says he didn't know yet. So I think he's aligning his ducks. He's strategically putting people in positions where he can do that. So what do you think, Raj, about building boxing? Do you think boxing is broken? And I'm talking amateur and pro.
It definitely can use a facelift.
Of course. I mean, anything could use a facelift. Like your old 1967 Mustang needs a new paint job. Exactly. But do you think he needs to really break everything?
The code of ethics, it's a very sensitive line when you trespass it. But anything to build up boxing, to lift it up, to put it back to the way it used to be, the great Arcel himself said that the moment that they started bringing in the TVs and bringing in the glory, the cameras,
more people watching,
and things like that, it's when the actual heart of boxing started to die, because the fighters started to go for the glamour of the sport than the actual, before those days. It was about just the fight. The fighter wanted just to fight, win the fight, and that's all his mentality was on. But now, fighters are mostly seeking the limelight, the glory, the fame, than really worrying about the actual fight. Not to say that the fights are easier, but it's just their concept it's a little bit off track as to, back in the day when it was just the fight. Everybody wanted to see the fight. Now it's more of, the hype, the smoke, the glamour, the glory, the lights, and that's what's people. Believe it or not, people that are not boxing fans, they tend to watch these big mega fights because they're curious to see how they're gonna come in, into the ring.
It's all about showmanship. Huh?
There you go.
Yeah, like Wilder, Tyson
go.
Fury,
Yes, sir.
and I guess in the UFC they don't have that. But you know what? Yeah, you're right. I think what's destroyed boxing is the promoters. These money hungry promoters.
I mean, they gotta sell the fight, right?
Of course, and they've got to do a
but
job.
I believe that when you're matching up two fighters that have the skills, the fight sells itself. I mean, there's no reason. Yeah, of course, you got to do everything you can to promote it, to plaster it, to blast it, to get the buzz going, so that people can know about the fight, and just the extra added stuff that they do to nowadays in the boxing world. It's just a bonus that comes with it. But back in those days, they didn't have those things.
And you know what? I think back in the days also, it was a little bit harder to see boxing. And I think that made it also special.
Exactly.
HBO. I thought, there was Thursday night fights on USA Network, sometimes on ESPN, then the main ones was on HBO, and you had to have HBO, and we didn't have HBO, so it attracted more. Now they're feeding you so much boxing all the time, and they're competing these big networks, and in the middle of everything, Roger, while they're competing, we don't get to see the fights because of differences. Bob Arum versus De La Hoya, they got mad. Well, my fighter doesn't fight for this channel. My fighter fights for the other channel. I know it's always been like that, but I think they're feeding us too much.
Yeah.
And I think the promoters, again, no offense to nobody, but I think it's all about the money. And then, you're right. People are tuning in just to see the big show, right?
And things have changed. I mean, you remember when we would miss the fights? We would all. What would be the first thing we would say? We'll catch it on the weekend when HBO shows it
On the replay, right?
on the replay. And now we don't
that.
even get to see the HBO replays anymore. They don't show those big fights anymore. When they were on pay-per-view, we didn't pay for it. Pay-per-view, we'll get to watch it come weekend. Okay. Now you don't see that anymore.
And you know what? I just going back to the HBO. When HBO left, a little bit of died in me. I guess it's true they say nothing lasts forever in life. When Arturo Gotti, the trilogy, Mickey Ward, Arturo Gotti, great trilogy, and when that was over, they both retired, and then Gotti passed. A little bit of the boxing in me died. I mean, because in case you didn't know, Raj, Arturo Gotti got me into boxing. I seen that guy, that blood and guts.
Everybody has an inspiration, and in boxing, there's always that one special person that triggers that desire,
that nerve in you to watch.
I want to be a trainer, I want to train a fighter like that.
He just compelled me to watch, and then that went away, and then we're going to make adjustments, adapt and overcome, and then HBO leaves, and I got into it, and again, this is my opinion. I like Jim Lampley, I like the way he announced. Max Kellerman, people might not like it, but that they triggered me and my kids to watch. Hey, it's Saturday night, it's HBO, and then they lost it to bigger sharks. HBO didn't want to do nothing with boxing anymore after an amazing 2 decades, more than 2 decades. I don't even know how many years HBO was showcasing boxing, and that left. And then now, of course, live streaming, and I'm going to tell you, man, boxing does need a facelift. And I think also what's destroying boxing is the media, the social media. It's everywhere, man.
It's all the pay-per-views.
Yeah, it's all the money, all that. It's
getting harder to watch these fights, to enjoy them.
There's just so many outlets,
exactly.
man. They think it's easier, but it's a little bit harder. So that's what Dana White said. We'll see what he does with boxing. I mean, it needs a facelift. I know people are going to get butthurt because he's going to say some things. But, hey, man, more power to Dana White. Let's see if he can do that to bring back the glory days of the Castillo, Diego Chico Corrales. I know there's a good upcoming fighters like them coming up. But, hey, we'll see, man. I mean, whatever saves boxing. And I know right now in this era, Roger, there's a lot of things that need saving. Music. And I'm going to say something. Country music. It's snap beat. Everything is snap beat. Click.
Yes, sir.
Click.
Yes,
Click.
sir.
It's all electronic drums. Country music needs saving, babe. I'm sorry, man, but we don't hear the violin no more, man. So it's like anything. It's more contemporary now as far as when we used to hear the George Strait and Dwight Yoakam. But that's just me. I know it's a boxing podcast, but I wanted to throw that in there. But we're losing a lot of things now, right? Those generational gaps, music to boxing.
It's funny. It's funny that you're mentioning music, and box. That you're bringing it in to play. There's a lot of talent here in El Paso
For music.
for
boxing.
For boxing, for music. I recently met a young lady by the name of Angie Marie. I don't know if you've ever met her.
No, I haven't.
You see, that's the problem with the way things are here in El Paso. Angie Marie is a very talented young El Pasoan. Beautiful voice. The kind of music that she plays, it might not be in tune to everybody's liking, but she's very talented. She's very promotable, but we go back to what we're talking about. It takes money to be able to get up there, to climb the ladders and things like that, And I personally don't know Miss Angie Marie on a one-on-one basis, but I know she's from El Paso, and to me, just like our Jennifer Hahn, just like our local trainers, they all deserve that spot, to be able to showcase their talents.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, so going back to music, but it's everywhere, right? Got to work hard.
Exactly.
And El Paso, I think El Paso does I don't want to say a horrible job, but it's just something that everybody's proud to be of El Paso, but when it comes beyond that, they don't really showcase our sports. I know Bill Knight did a great job.
Oh, yeah.
I know he retired, but after Bill Knight, there's been that Matthew Aguilar does another great job for the boxing column for the El Paso Times. But other than that, it's sickening when I see
those deep pockets to start
showing
a little bit of enthusiasm to start backing us up.
And you know what? I mean, Ivy's going to the Nationals. Andy Perez is going to the Nationals. Kayla's also going to the Nationals. I want to see him on the front page this Sunday, but you won't see him. You'll see a professional golfer, a professional basketball team. I don't want to see them. This is a local nutpaper. We're not catering to the United States. We're catering to El Pasoans, and that's what we're missing. Going back to our live chat again real quick. Peña said, never underestimate the heart of a Mexican boxer, regardless of how they look. And you're right. The Mexican blood, man. No matter how, you never underestimate your opponent. Right? Jesse from the Iron Hearts Boxing Club said, saludos to one of my greatest, mi Roger. So that's what he wanted to let you know.
Mr. Jesse, good to hear from you, my brother. He was also one of my assistant trainers. Actually, he was one of the very last assistant trainers that I had, Mr. Jesse Juarez. I miss you, brother, man.
All right, Jesse, there you go. Roger, your boxing club was called Iron Hearts.
Iron Hearts.
Why the name Iron Hearts?
It was originally called Avalos Iron Hearts, but I removed my first name off of Iron Hearts because I soon realized that Iron Hearts was taking a life of its own, and that I couldn't make it my own anymore. It wasn't, Iron Hearts was becoming more of it was becoming a life, a monster of its own, and for me to keep my name in front of Iron Hearts was making it an individual property, like it was just mine, and it wasn't mine. It belonged to the kids. It belonged to the fighters. It belonged to the team.
So where did you grow up in El Paso?
I grew up here in El Paso. I actually started on a little small street called Tularosa.
Oh yeah, I know that street.
Right there on the corner of Lamar and Tularosa. That's where my old barrio. That's where I grew up when I was younger. I went to Alta Vista. Believe it or not, it's old. One of the original schools here in El Paso,
Wow.
Alta Vista. And then I ended up going to Hanks High School.
Oh, Hanks. Wow.
And 89. And but yeah, I grew up in Tularosa, and then I shortly moved over to the Far East side.
So did you have any amateur fights, Rod? Did you fight when you were?
So my introduction to boxing was I didn't have a very good upbringing. Well, actually, my mother was the best. My father was murdered when I was 14 years old. He was
Wow.
killed in Dallas.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, he wasn't walking a straight path. So my mother remarried another individual, and which we ended up moving from that area, Lamar and Tularosa, to the Far East side. Moving on up, like the George Jeffersons.
Yeah, moving on up, right?
Getting out of the hood and going over there, but the hood still stayed in me. And when I was going to Hanks, I got caught up in some gangs.
Okay.
And I ran around with a group of guys, and back then it wasn't like how it is now. Back then it was more of, chest to chest.
Yeah, of course. Fist fights.
Yeah. It was. You know what? Nowadays you can't even look at the guy, a certain way. You're getting your face cut up. Look at poor David.
Yeah.
Out there in Phoenix. In Arizona, people want to take their guns out and shoot you, and but I did have that type of lifestyle. I was involved in
Fighting, rough,
gangs
okay.
and things like that, and so because of me being involved in those activities, I obviously wanted to learn how to fight.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So I would sneak off to a little place in the far end of El Paso, which is called Chihuahuita.
Yeah, I know that place.
And there was a small little gym out there that was being run by a guy by the name of Lico Subia, which happened to be also the president of Iron Horse Motorcycle Club. Shout outs to Miss Cheryl, if she's listening. That's Lico Subia's daughter. I recently had the pleasure of meeting her.
Okay.
We ran into each other at a restaurant. Me and my wife got to talk to her, spend time with her. Beautiful spirit. All his family is beautiful. But I would go into Lico Subia's gym, and I would spar with. I would be there sparring with the guys, training with them. I never really got to compete because my mother was totally against it, but I had my share of sparring. I trained with them. I would sneak off on the weekends. It was a weekend thing for me. So that's how I first got my introduction into boxing, because of the great Lico
Wow.
Subia.
So you grew up in El Paso, rough neighborhoods, gangs like the way it used to be. So Subia got you started into boxing. So then how did you get into the training business?
So that was a whole different story of his own. I had my son Frank Avalos. Shout out to Frankie, which he's doing his own thing now. I'm real proud of my son. He's come a long ways. Even though he started off kind of rocky, we got involved with the wrong kind of crowd that we shouldn't have never opened up that door. But you learn as you go, right? But now we're no longer affiliated with those type of individuals anymore. They've gone on to do their own thing, which I'm glad. I'm just glad that all that negative vibe is off of our families.
Good.
Well, my son is doing his own thing. He's got his own club in Juarez, Mexico.
A boxing club. What is it called?
It's called Conquistadores.
Conquistadores.
La Nueva Era Conquistadores.
Wow, that's a pretty good name.
It's the same logo, Iron Hearts. The same logo, the gloves, the same logo, everything. Conquistadores was actually the first name of my original boxing club, the very first boxing club, which started off in the West Side. It was called the West Side Conquistadores. And so, but that name ended up dying off because we ended up changing it to Avalos Iron Hearts. That's when my ego was starting, my head was swelling up, and I wanted to see my name, blasted on my T-shirts and stuff. So I did a little facelift on the club. But apparently,
Sure.
my son always loved that name, Conquistadores. So he mixed Iron Hearts with
With the
Conquistadores.
and-
So the name of his club is called Conquistadores La Nueva Era Corazones de Hierro.
Wow, and you know what?
In
It's
Juarez,
and-
Mexico,
and
and
it-
he's doing big things out there. He's affiliated with the Umbre Association out there, and I'm really proud of my son, man. He's come a long ways. He's got his little team out there, and I'm really proud of him.
Wow, and we also want to give a shout out to Unrivaled Boxing Talking News. Just found your show, listening in for the first time. I thank you for tuning in. We're a little bit raw going live, but we're doing our best, my friend. So thank you for that as well. Well, I mean, so you start training. Tell us about your pro fighters, man. Who have you trained?
So that's a list on itself, right? People that I've worked with throughout the years.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you worked with a lot of amateur, and that's the key.
Well, that's
but I know I've
that's
seen.
where I started. I started with my son, actually.
of course.
I ended up, my son started he started growing up on me. He was wanting to get into, it first started out with that I was going to try to put him into martial arts. That's
Right.
how I was going to originally start. So I started to look for a martial arts school to put him into. I was going to put him into one of my old martial arts schools that I used to attend when I was still running around. Like I said, I used to
Right.
go with Lico Subia. Then I was also going with Hayachi, the old
Yeah.
man. Not the son, but the old Hayachi.
My wife used to go to
Yeah.
Hayashi's gym. A lot of people went there. He was
used
very
to have
good.
his gym at his house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was back in those days. But I was thinking of putting my son into martial arts, and during that journey, we ended up getting invited to an amateur show. Where I got to meet the great Mr. Mata. At that show, I met Mr. Mata. I met Joe El Chamizal. I met Joe Chamizal Rodriguez. I met Mr. Tom McKay.
Tom McKay. I had him on my show already.
I met Junior Vicencio.
Mr. Vicencio. Wow, I had him on my
met
show.
Ray Morales. I met all the original trainers when I first started. At that time, I was real young. I was a young father, and so I ended up approaching them, and I was curious into trying to get my son involved in boxing.
Yeah.
So they had asked me in what area of El Paso was I living in, and I told them that I was living in the far west side. And so they were like, well, you might want to just cross Trans Mountain Road and take them to Northeast, to Nations Tobin. So I ended up in Nations Tobin. And I was going over there with the Northeast Legends, is what they were called back then.
That's when boxing was alive, huh?
Exactly.
In the Sun City.
That's the old school boxing clubs back in those days. And so I ended up going with a gentleman by the name of Ray Morales back in those days.
Wow.
And so it started out, but the journey of going to the gym every day was becoming a headache. And so I started to try to look for a trainer in the west side. And so I was starting to get close to these old school trainers, Ralph Reese, all these old school trainers. And, Mr. Jerry White, God rest his soul. I was getting to get involved with these people, and they were all suddenly came up to me and they were like, well, why don't you open up your own gym? I mean, you're in the west side, we need a gym in the west side. And I was like, wow, that's I didn't even think that would be even possible, right? I ended up opening up a small gym in one of the apartment complexes out there, and I ended up training fighters out there, and I started off with a small group. Believe it or not, one of my first students when I started out there, when I first became a trainer, I don't know if you remember him. He's got to be around still. Rene Armijo.
Okay.
He's the one that came out in the De La Hoya show.
Yeah, the Contender.
The Contender.
Yeah, and he has his own. That's right. Yeah.
He was one of my very first students, believe it or not.
Oh, so you trained Rene Armijo.
So yeah, he trained with me for like about a year. But his dad was always an influence in his life. Because his dad used to
box.
But his dad was always there in the background. And here I am learning the ropes, learning how to be a trainer. And I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. I'm not going to lie to you. For the first 5 years of me being involved as a trainer, most trainers will never admit to what I'm about to say. But you're not born a trainer. You know what I mean? You're not born with that manual. And for the first 5 years, it was nothing but it was hard.
So
it was hard. We didn't have equipment.
Of course, I mean
we didn't have equipment.
Back then,
you know where I got my first equipment? Believe it or not, I ended up getting it from the same trainers that encouraged me to open up the gym in the West Side. One day they invited me to a meeting, and I showed up to that meeting, and they were having a border association meeting, and all of a sudden, next thing I know, they break out this bag. And in that bag was old equipment. I'm talking about leather gloves with tape on it,
wow.
Headgears with tape, groin protectors that were used, things that were going on, that type of equipment. And we utilized all that equipment. It was used. It was sweaty. It was dirty. But that's the equipment that I had. I didn't have any equipment, and that's how I started.
Wow.
And I'll never forget my first students were coming out with scratches on their faces, and they, because the gloves were all brittle and old, and
wow.
But those are the memories.
Those are great memories, right? From a coach, exactly.
Memories of these group of old guys, Mr. Mata,
Junior.
Chamizal, Ray Morales, Jerry Wright, Junior Vicencio, Ray Ibarra, Louis Maldonado. All of these guys, they all got together, and they saw. I don't know if their thing was to just get boxing into the West Side, and they were like, well, this guy lives in the West Side, let's give him a helping hand, let's get him going. And
maybe that's what it was. And there you go. So tell us about your pro fighters. Which ones are most notable? I'm pretty sure you have a lot, but for time constraints, tell us about your main pro fighters that you've trained.
So as time went on, I ended up developing a great skill as far as wrapping hands.
So then, and you developed this. He's a great hand wrapper, and you had Title Boxing released a training series video, and you were part of one of their volumes. Tell us about that.
The very first volume that was released was actually my very first volume
from Title Boxing.
From Title Boxing.
Wow.
I'm the one that stamped Title Boxing on the box. I'm the one that got it going. And the idea came because Ringside was doing. They had videos that were showing trainers how to hit the bag, how to hit the speed bag, things like that. And so at that time, Title Boxing didn't have those type of videos. And so I ended up getting approached by one of the representatives because I took one of my boxers to one of the shows out there in Kansas City, and some white guy that was out there taking just being a part of the show noticed the way I was wrapping my fighters' hands. So he came up to me and he asked me that where did I learn to, because I was young, remember I was still and they were asking, where did you learn how to wrap hands? And believe it or not, I learned how to wrap hands by going to Juarez. And the old timers, Mantequilla Nápoles, and they were out there, and I learned some of these little tricks on how to wrap hands. There's thousands of ways to wrap hands, but there's always that one wrap that you can get wrong.
So how did Title come across you? So
they came up to me and they were like, "Hey,
like what? We mean Title?
Where did you learn that method of wrapping?" And I was like, "Well."
So when you say they, Roger, Is that the title president or?
So it was a gentleman that was a worker that was working for Title Boxing.
Okay.
I don't know what exactly was his role in Title Boxing, but he came up to me, and he was curious to film me while I was doing it. So he got his phone, and he started to film me rapping a kid while I was there at one of the shows. Then we exchanged information. He gave me a business card, and I gave him my information. When I came back to El Paso, weeks had passed when I got a call from one of the corporate managers from Title Boxing, and they were asking me that if I'd be interested in being filmed to teach an instructional video on Title Boxing. And during that time, Fernando Vargas was in town. He was having a fight. He had just finished losing his fight against Trinidad. And
ferocious Fernando Vargas.
Yeah, and so he needed, he was needing to come back into the fight scene right away. They didn't want to give him too much time off, so he ended up fighting Wilfredo Rivera here in El Paso, which he ended up getting knocked down in that fight because a lot of people should have given him a little bit more time to rest, but they didn't want to give him that rest. They wanted him to push him back in there after that ugly knockout that he had from Trinidad. And so when he was here, I had an opportunity to show my rapping technique to him, and we took pictures. And there's a picture where me and him, he's handing me a rap to me. I got to participate in one of his rapping sessions.
Wow, cool, man. That's pretty cool.
So he's handing me a hand rap to me, and he autographed it for me, and we're in a picture together. And so during the development of the video with Title Boxing, they needed a cover for the video. So at that time, I knew Fernando's manager, and so I got a hold of him, and I asked him that if it would be possible that I could use the picture to put it on the cover, because it's just showing a rap that's being handed over to me. And so after negotiations and everything, Vargas signed a form releasing me of any, there were royalty,
yes,
and that's how the video was born. It got released in 99, 2000, in 1999, actually 2000, and then all of a sudden it ended up dying off in 2001. In 2001 is when we had the towers, when
9/11
happened in 2009/11. 2001, everything was being done through the mail, shipping. My videos was being sold through that Title Boxing.
Okay.
They were using the mails, and then all of a sudden mail stopped flowing because of Amtrax. Amtrax is being found in envelopes and boxes, so nobody was ordering stuff online during that time. And so here's Title Boxing with all these boxes of hand wraps videos that are not being shipped out because people were afraid to order stuff
because of anthrax. The anthrax scare that we had.
Yeah, remember during that time. And
so whatever happened to all those videos?
So those videos eventually got sold through Amazon. They ended up shipping them off to Amazon, and Amazon paid them a big check for them. And if you go to Amazon, I'm pretty sure you'll still find those old VHS
can we still? Oh, it's VHS.
Yeah,
is there anything on is there anything that we can stream it? Or
I've never transferred it over to a DVD. I need somebody that has the technology to do that. I got the original first.
Well, there you go,
VHS
folks. If anybody can let us know, we can do that transfer. Well, what a great success for the hand wraps.
So then from there, it took a life of its own. Next thing I knew, I started being approached by other trainers. I got a call from Joe Diaz, which happens to be the manager of Yuri Boy Campas.
Okay. And
because aside from being a hand wrapper, I'm also a mitt specialist. That's actually my passion. I know how to mitt. And next thing I know, I'm involved in Yuri Boy Campas' camp.
And Yuri Boy Campas, I mean, if you're a big boxing fan, you know who this guy is, right? Yuri Boy Campas was
from Sonora, Navojoa, Sonora. He was already towards his end of his career, but just the fact that they had that faith in me to be able to be involved in his camp, to meet him, to travel with him so I can wrap his hands. All of that was experience for me, you know what I mean? And which are memories for me that I'll never forget.
Yeah, Yori Boy Campas. He fought Lights of who?
Well, he lost his title, his title against Fernando Vargas. Fernando Vargas won his first title at the very young age, which was against Yuri Boy Campas. It's on YouTube. You guys can see that fight. It was his very first IBO title that Fernando Vargas won against Yuri Boy Campas. And
so who else have you? And then you've also.
So then from there, I ended up meeting and getting to know Angel Manfredi.
Angel Manfredi. He was also known as the what?
To be my brother in Christ.
Okay.
We've become very, very good friends. Angel Manfredi is the kind of guy that right now, if I want, you know, I'll even prove it to you. I get on my phone and I'll look him up. I'll type in his name, and you know, just along with Tony Lights Out,
James Tony.
James Tony. I got all these guys on my phone. They've become friends of mine.
And because of what you've done and all your comments. But Angel Manfredi, going back to Angel Manfredi, he was called El Diablo, right?
El Diablo.
And then I remember coming out. He used to always come out in red, but then he changed it because
he became a Christian.
Okay,
he became God Jesus.
So tell us, okay.
Manfredi.
So tell us how you became involved with Hector Camacho.
So, believe it or not, I met Hector Camacho when Yuri Boy Campas fought Hector Camacho here in El Paso.
Senior.
That was
he
the
fought
first
Junior.
Fight.
Okay,
that was
okay.
the first fight. He fought against Senior, and look who it is. Look who's calling me right now.
Angel Manfredi is on the phone.
He's calling me right now, and let me put him on speaker. Hey, what's going on, champ? How you doing, Angel? I don't know if they can hear you. You're on. I'm gonna put you as close as I can to the mic, but say hello to my people here in El Paso, Texas, Angel.
How we doing, El Paso?
Hey, Angel, how are you, man, champ?
I'm doing good, doing real good.
So Angel, unfortunately, they're not able to call you, my brother. I wanted them to call you, but you can go ahead and go to the live stream and maybe chat on there through YouTube. But it's good to hear you. I'll call you right now when I'm done with the interview, brother.
All right, brother, no problem, man.
God bless you, my brother, and it's always good to hear from you. I'll call you right now when I get out.
Angel Manfredi, folks, is a Puerto Rican-American former boxer who has fought in the junior welterweight, lightweight, and junior lightweight divisions. He was a popular fighter in the 1990s.
He was a showcase for HBO.
Exactly. He
number one ranking for the HBO era. He also, I hate to say this, my brother, I know that Arturo Gatti was your hero.
Well, not my hero.
Angel Manfredi beat Arturo Gatti.
Exactly. And then also, Manfredi he had another shot at a title fight against Stevie Johnson. So, nevertheless, good fight for this. So, moving right along, one thing, Coach, give me one thing. What is the secret to a good and safe hand wrap? One thing.
A good and safe hand wrap.
Good. One technique. What's the key component of a good safe hand wrap?
The comfort of the fighter. The fighter's gotta believe in the wrap that he's got in his hand. And if he doesn't believe that he's protected in his hands, he's not gonna let his hands go the way he's supposed to.
Wow. And you know what, folks? There you have it. It's for the fighters. And again, I don't mean to be rushing either. I'm sorry, Coach or Raj. But folks, I mean, that's the key. Fighters. And this guy that I have in front of me, Angel Manfredi, Hector Macho Camacho Jr., James Lights Out Tony, Fernando Vargas. He's been an instructional part for boxing here in El Paso, not only for the amateur world and these kids in the Ironheart gym, but he's been also showcased at a title boxing VHS back then.
Which I might add, Junior Vicencio was the one that wrote my biography on that video. And shout out to my very best friend Junior Vicencio.
And Junior Vicencio just commented and he said
he wrote my biography on that video, brother.
And he just said right now, good to hear about your video, Roger, what an experience. So, and Junior Vicencio, again, he's again a staple in the world of boxing here in El Paso. So, moving right along there, Raja, in the we have talked about in the past podcasts that we've discussed about El Paso not being too supportive of the boxing community. You also mentioned it yourself. Even Las Cruces, El Paso, Midland, Odessa, all these surrounding agencies. Events are scarce around here and far and beyond, both in pro and amateur. No venues to hold more events. Do you think the fault lies on the local commission or on its members, or on the city?
Honestly, I believe it falls on everybody, brother.
Okay.
I honestly believe that the owners of Fountas Afera, all these big pockets that
Big
got their
pockets,
pockets
exactly.
swelled up, they all need tax write-offs, brother. I mean, why not invest a little bit into these programs?
So you think that we have to go out there and do some legwork, huh, to get sponsors?
Why do we got to go after them? I mean, they should already have it in their heart to support, local talent.
Good, man. That's a good one.
Look, I mean, brother, if God ever blessed you in making this gym, this is a beautiful gym, by the way.
Thank you.
If you ever became a franchise, brother, because you have the passion and the love for the sport, are you gonna wait for somebody to walk in off the street and ask you to cooperate and to help out with the sport? No, right? You're gonna be generous and you're gonna help out because you know that there's a need, there's a demand. And
good, and you think these deep pockets should come in and reach out for, but they don't, Raj.
They,
I mean,
they don't, and it's sad. It's sad because they're forgetting where they come from.
Exactly.
They're forgetting that they've been blessed.
Exactly.
The Lord has blessed them, and they should go around to these gyms like your gym, Borderland Brawlers. They should stop at Borderland Brawlers and give Coach Jerry, money to be able to sustain these kids. Give you Tree money so that you can be able to pick up these kids and take them to the
let me tell you what,
national
I mean,
level,
these kids
that's where the money's going to go.
These kids are traveling to Milwaukee.
Exactly.
And
who's going to fund that?
Their own families, because I mean the local boxing commission is so hard for the LBC to get venues, Raj, and it's not them, it's the venues. I make a big I promote shows too, and it's hard to get a venue.
Exactly.
They want to charge the LBC, which is probably it's a non-profit, and these guys are volunteered, but they charge them, I mean, an arm and a leg to put these shows on, or they want this or they want that. It's always gimme. But yeah, man, these kids are traveling, and it's hard for them.
The city of El Paso has all these abandoned warehouses that are just sitting there, that because that's how they do it in other cities. In Chicago, all these trainers that have opened up their own gyms, they go to the city and they ask the city, hey, you got this building sitting there, it's just collecting dust, it's not doing anything, why don't you let us utilize it while you guys are in the process of selling it? If it never gets sold, well, great, it's being used for a good cause, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for the boxing.
Exactly.
I mean, and I know in talking to Junior Vicencio back in the heydays of the Golden Gloves, I mean, boxing was real strong here in El Paso. So it lies on everybody. Roger, and I know in the USA Boxing, the local boxing commission, our LBC here, our border association, you've been a coach, right? The
Trainer,
LBC
coach. I've hosted amateur fights.
Okay, you've been part of the LBC, and you paid your dues. The LBC will have elections here soon. Have you ever considered running for a position on the board?
I actually was a board member.
Okay, tell us.
I was the treasurer. I was in the treasury department.
Who was the president back then?
Back then, the president, if I'm not mistaken, was Mr. Reyes Mata.
Okay, and they're coming up to elections, and by the way, I mean, Hector, they've done a good job, man. I mean, they're trying, and you know why? At first, you're blind to it because you don't really see what they do behind. But now that I've seen more and interviewed more people, it takes a lot, man. They do a lot of work, man.
I cannot. All I gotta say is that all these people that are involved in
USA Boxing, it's volunteer work.
It's all volunteer.
Exactly.
You just, brother, and that's an understatement, brother.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're forgetting about the fact that even though it's it's volunteer work. You could just just keep it as simple as that. It's volunteer work, but you cannot. I cannot just say it's just volunteer work just like that and minimize it.
Okay, why didn't?
Because it's not. Because it's taking time away from their family. It's taking time away from their weekends. They gotta go and
All
set
day.
up the ring.
Exactly.
They gotta find a venue. They gotta buy the T-shirts. They gotta do this. They gotta do that. And then on top of that, they still gotta put up with the trainers that are out there complaining that every trainers, all their fighters get robbed. Every trainer, my kid got robbed. My kid got robbed. It's a personal thing. And you know what?
And what I'm
It's hard enough that these volunteers are spending their time and they're doing it for the kids.
Exactly.
Because who else is going to do
yeah,
it, brother?
they won't, man. And you know what I meant? Volunteered is that they don't get paid. That's what I meant.
Exactly,
But I mean,
brother.
they do a sacrifice.
But they get a satisfaction in their heart because
course.
they're doing it for the love.
So let me ask
of
you, Raj.
boxing, brother.
So we're up for the elections. I don't know if Hector's going to run again. Why don't you run again?
You know what, brother? Right now, I'm going through a spiritual journey.
All right.
I've kind of taken a step back a little bit.
Because you've done that already, of course.
From boxing, you know, and I don't know if most of the people that know me, they know that I recently had a terrible storm happen in my family. I lost one of my daughters.
I'm sorry to hear that, Raj.
Yeah, she's 19 years old.
How long ago was this?
She passed away on December 26, 2016. 17, I'm sorry.
No.
2017. And she was killed in Las Cruces, New Mexico. She was struck by a city bus. And in Las Cruces, New Mexico. It made
freak accident.
It made news all over the place. The community stepped up. Everybody helped. We were able to give a good funeral. We were able to send her off to the Lord.
Well, my condolences, man. I'm sorry, brother.
No. It's a journey that I don't wish on my worst enemy.
Wow.
It humbles you. And that's.
I think
I've taken a step back from being so involved because your priorities tend to
change.
Well, it reminds you what is the most important thing in life, and that's family. Family is the most important thing in life. Your kids, your wife, your family, brother.
And you know what? There's always time, and you're right. I mean, sometimes we get too caught up in our stuff.
Exactly.
And yeah, you're moving. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's what becomes important. And sometimes it's too late when you realize that you've lost everything.
Exactly.
But I believe you were given a second chance, Raj, and you're getting it right now. And everybody deserves a second chance. Because
well, I'm not down for the count.
And I know you're not.
I'm not, brother. I just need that little spiritual time. Right now, I'm spending a lot of time with my family, my wife, my daughter. Which is going to be getting ready to be 15 years old.
They're here at the gym, folks. They're here sitting next to the great Mr. Roger Avalos.
Yeah,
So
everywhere I go, you're going to see them always with me now.
Good.
An incident, a situation like this will always bring us closer together. Now, when I do decide to dust myself off and take my mitts out of the closet again, go full blown, which I haven't made that commitment yet. But I know for a fact that if I was to come back and go full blown, people that know me, people that know the type of trainer that I am, will know that I'll pick up right where I left off.
Well, Rod, just to let you know that on behalf of me and my wife, that you know, like you said, family, she supported everything that I've done. Everything that I've accomplished, that I've been successful, is because of her and my kids. So on behalf of them and myself, you'll always be welcome here at Warrior's Edge, Raj. You'll have a home here, man.
Thank you, brother.
You got
know what? Those kind words have been said to me at lots of gyms because I'm a grandfather to a lot of gyms here in El Paso. Some of my students have grown up already, and they have their own gyms now. You got Cesar Carvajal.
Well, I know you met me when I took my kid to Pavo Real.
Yeah, you were
younger.
Everybody at one time or another has passed through my hands.
Yeah, and it was me and my kid.
I trained your son.
Yeah.
You asked me a lot of questions.
A lot of
you
questions.
Yourself was wanting to get involved into the
exactly.
business.
Remember?
And I
you told me.
I would love to be able to say that I contribute a little
You
bit
did.
to that monster
Well-
that you created, brother.
Well, you
And
did. I mean, look, man. The monster.
Look at that big Clash of the Titans
Yeah.
monster that you created.
Yeah, 10
a lot
Avenue.
of people don't know, but you know.
Yeah.
You know that the very, very, very first Battle of the Badges was done by me. And why? Well, it was actually how do I say, promoted and organized by me, Mr. Mata, Junior Vicencio, because there was a group of people that got involved that wanted to do the Battle of the Badges, that they didn't know what they were doing, and it was getting out of control. One of them reached out to me and asked me if I could help them, since I already had experience, and we made it happen, and it was a very successful show. Ever since then, look at where it's gone. Now
it's Clash of the Titans. We're in the
Yes.
10th annual. So yeah, I mean, it's great, and yeah, you contribute a little bit to Warrior's Edge, to the podcast now that I have in boxing. I think this is great.
This is beautiful what you're doing here, brother. I'm very proud of. I'm proud of all the things that I see with how far everybody has come along. When I'm not gonna say that Jerry was my assistant trainer, because he wasn't. He was a trainer. He was his wife Linda was the one that gave that look of the Ironhearts, the big gold and black letters. You know, the Ironheart look.
Yeah.
That was their design. You know what I mean? And I carry it up to this day with pride. And you know, when I started when I was working with Jerry, when me and Jerry were together, you know, Jerry was picking up his mitts. You know, he had a lot of questions, and all I can, you know, when it comes to knowledge, brother, knowledge is power.
Exactly.
And you know what? Look at where he's at now, man.
Exactly.
He's a force to be reckoned with. If I come back into the scene, it's gonna take me another maybe year or 2 years, 3 years to get my fighters to be able to even be in the same arena with the brawlers, with the borderland brawlers, with the warriors. It's gonna take me some time to get these kids to be able to keep up with you guys. You guys have taken it off to another level. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, and again, like I said, you've been a big contributor. Thank you so much. So that's been there as well. Let me ask you, how can we attract more coaches, owners to run for office or to be coaches? There's so many people out there, but I don't know. How can we attract them, man? What do you think?
You know what, brother? There was a time that I would criticize new trainers that were coming into the scene, that they really didn't know what they were doing, brother. But they were putting that label trainer on their shirt. Mm-hmm. I would be one of the very first ones to criticize those type of trainers, that they would walk into a gym and they would sit there and say, you know, well, I'm a trainer, and they didn't even know what they were doing. But I can't criticize them anymore. I'm gonna sit there. I'm gonna tell you why. Because just like everything has a start. Everything has a beginning. There's a journey of learning and a process. They gotta learn by their mistakes. Sometimes at the cost of the boxers, at the cost of the kids. I myself had to take that journey when I was first starting. But there's gotta have to be a time where you end up having more successes than failures. You know what I mean? Eventually, because you know you're dealing with actual human beings that are. This is a dangerous sport. It's not a game. It's not a dangerous. It's not. You don't play boxing. This is a dangerous sport. So by anybody coming onto the scene that doesn't know what they're doing, putting on that label as a trainer, they gotta really look deep into their heart and consider the fact that they might actually be hurting somebody instead of helping them. But never would I discourage them from continuing to learn the trade.
Great, Raj. Great advice that you're giving us. Here, wrapping up the show, folks. Roger, who's your favorite prize fighter you have one in the past and now.
Well, Bam Bam Mancini. It's one of the fighters that I can honestly say
Boom.
that Bam Bam Mancini, the great Bam Bam Mancini. Oh, come on, brother.
No, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. He.
Is it Ray Boom Boom?
Yeah,
Mancini?
Ray Boom Boom Mancini.
Yeah. Okay. That'll be your past. What about now?
Nowadays, brother. Everybody, brother.
Everybody. You don't have you don't like Canelo Alvarez. You don't like Triple G.
Canelo. They're all good fighters, brother. I can't specifically pick one. I believe that anybody that steps into the ring has already achieved greatness, brother.
Wow. And folks, just real quick on the on our live chat, Devon Alexander. Devon Alexander just said we want to give a shout out to Devon Alexander. We were blessed to have him here last year. He was here one night with his trainers. Great guy, very humble guy. That guy is a class act. You know, people see these fighters behind the lens or on TV, and you know you think there's that you don't think too much of them, but they're human. Devon is a absolute awesome human being. He came to the gym. You look at this guy; he's so humble, awesome guy. We want to give a shout out to Devon Alexander. Thank you, Devon, for being part of Warriors Edge. And again, just you being here for those couple of hours and training at our gym, at our humble gym, which is your home, your house, forever be champ. We are grateful for you forever, my friend. We really enjoyed you having here, Devon. Devon is a professional fighter. If you don't know, he's a former world champion in 2 weight classes. He's held unified WBC and IBF light welterweight titles in 2010, welterweight titles in the IBF 2012, 2013. He recently suffered loss, but it's not a loss for Devon, man. I know he's going to get up. He had a new trainer, Roy Jones Jr. But Devon just wanted to give you a big shout out. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, Mr. Devon.
You're big inspiration to the kids. So,
I know who he is. He's a beautiful kid. He's a beautiful talent, and he's got a lot of pavement to still walk, brother. Man, he's gonna go far.
And I think he is. He's a great fighter, man.
Yes,
Devon, a great fighter. So, folks, we're wrapping up the show now. Mr. Avalos, thank you so much for being here with us. It was a pleasure to have you at the Warriors Edge Gym. A lot of great people have been sitting there, and you are our 20th episode. So thank you so much for being our 20th guest of honor. It was a pleasure. I know we can talk a lot more. Fortunately, time is running out. But you know what, man? Thank you so much. Thanks to your family for being here at the Warriors Edge Boxing Gym and Promotions. Thank you, Raj.
The pleasure is all mine, brother.
Folks, the sad truth is that there are some people who will only be there for you as long as they have something they need from you. When you no longer serve purpose to them, they will leave you. The good news is, if you tough it out like Rogers have, you'll eventually weed these people out of your life and be left with some great people that you can really count on. We rarely lose friends. We just gradually figure out who are our real ones at the end of the day. Folks, this has been the podcast, and anything you do in life, you always put God first. We'll see you next Thursday. We'll see you later, folks.